Solve the inequality by graphing. All right, so the first step to graphing this equation here is going to be first getting it into a format where we can easily pick out the vertex, the orientation of the parabola, so on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've noticed right here that we have two negatives. So we don't have any common factor other than the negatives here, so I'm just going to have to pull out a -1. Okay, and then we always leave out that -3 or whatever's on the end, right? Because we want to complete the square in order to get this into a proper format. So our next step to completing the square is we look at our b term here, right? If this is a, b, c, we look at b and we divide it by 2, which gives us 1, and then we square it, but obviously 1 squared is just 1. So we're going to add 1 and subtract 1 inside the brackets, which is essentially just like adding 0, right? Because 1 minus 1 is 0, but it allows us to do our completing the square. Now, in order to make this kind of a squared term, we need to get this -1 out of the brackets, which means we have to multiply it by what's on the outside here. So -1 times -1 will give us a +1. Okay, and we're just about done here. So the last step is to basically turn this into its squared term, right? So basically when we take this, when we take this 1 here and square it, this is the number that it's going to be adding up to, right? So we're going to have x plus 1 bracket squared. That's just kind of how you know, but of course there's other ways to go about it. That's just a trick I always remember. And finally, we just have this +1 minus 3 we had to do, so that becomes -2. Okay, so now we have our graph-friendly format. So let's go ahead and draw a grid. In fact, we might have to draw this a bit differently. Something like that, because, and this is our 0, right? Just because of the shape of the graph. So what can we pick out here? Well, right away we can see inside the brackets we flip this sign, and that gives us our x coordinate of the vertex. So that's going to be -1. And then we just take this number, and that's going to be our y coordinate of the vertex, -2. We can also see that the parabola is negative, so it's going to be shaped like this, and that there is no vertical or horizontal expansion, so it's just going to be a regular parabola. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw our vertex. So it's going to be about right here. And then we're going to go over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1. And then over 1, down 2, over 1, down 2. And it's going to be something like that, right? Okay, and now our last step is to find where we need to shade. And so there's two ways to finding the shading, and one of them is way easier than the other. So I'm going to show you the easy method first. All we do is we look at our equation or inequality, and we can see that we want to find where y is greater than our parabola, greater than or equal to our parabola, rather. And so essentially what that means is if we have this parabola kind of going on to infinity, our y value is going to be greater than the parabola basically anywhere outside of the parabola, right? So we would shade on the outside. If we want to use the test point method, however, we can also do that. So let's use test point 0, 0. And so now all we do is we just plug in 0, 0 into here. So y 0. And then we have -0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 3. Nice and easy. So that's just going to be -3. And we can see 0 is indeed greater than -3. So this is true, which means we shade where the test point is, which is indeed outside of the parabola. Okay? So that's all for this one. I hope that helps. Thank you. Bye.